There was a big step change for the Somerset Levels in 1940. There was a munitions factory built at Puriton, which is a village near the M5, and that needed huge amounts of fresh water. So the Huntsville River was built. This is ostensibly a huge reservoir that takes water from the Brew Valley, which is this northern part of the Somerset Levels and Moors, lifts water from the Brew Valley into the Huntsville, and that was supplying thousands and thousands of litres every day to the munitions factory. Obviously what that did to the Somerset Levels was drain it. That had some adverse consequences, especially for the wildlife, but it did make the area, bring it into agricultural or
use.
Much more agricultural use. Previously maybe you could graze the land 2 or 3 months a year. Now it can be grazed, a lot of it all year round, if you wanted to, or at least the grazing season has been much extended. So it had sort of different effects for different sectors. Before they were very extensively drained, you would be able to, I've heard people talk about being able to take a boat from pretty much the M5 over to Glastonbury. It's 15 miles, virtually all year round, whereas now you'd struggle. The Somerset Levels are one of the most unique and amazing landscapes in the country. We have on the Levels a wide range of different projects which are going on. The ones at the moment are to try and recreate really nice wetland habitats from some peat extraction sites. When peat is taken from the ground, it's scoured down to the level of the clay which underlies all the peat, and what we're left with are large holes really in the ground, which will eventually fill up with water. What we want to make sure is that these aren't just going to be pretty sterile bowls of water, that there's lots of different types of habitats within those, that we can recreate some reed beds, some fen habitats, all sorts of different things, so that all the different creatures and the plants which live in these kind of areas all each have a different space. Wherever we can purchase land, we will look to do so. We do it usually on places adjoining our current reserves, so that we are able to expand our reserves and make our havens for wildlife ever bigger, and link them into the current habitat network. One of the things that's particularly special about Westhay is that we have the largest remaining fragment of bog habitat, really just a few hundred metres by a few hundred metres, and that is left of a huge bog which ranged virtually from Glastonbury to the M5. It was a massive area, and now we've just got this precious little bit left. The problem with the peat extraction is when they build these dig these big holes, it means all the water runs from the bog off into the holes. So the things which are adapted to a really wet style of life, they need lots of water. You're talking things like some of the insectivorous plants like sundews, sphagnum moss. They just dry out and they can't cope with the dry conditions. We find things like the trees growing up and scrubbing it over.
How big is the area which was peat diggings? How big is the area that you're trying to restore, or that you're going to restore?
The area it's equivalent to about 26 football pitches. So you can imagine that's a pretty big area, and what we want to do is some quite serious earthwork, so it's going to be quite an intensive programme. There are a huge number of species which are reliant on these wetlands, and indeed the wetlands have had international and national recognition for their importance for a range of different wetland birds, wetland plants, and also insects. So a real range for anybody, but it's the birds which get a lot of the interest. So in the winter we have huge numbers of ducks and geese, swans, and also wading birds coming into the area, and it's a fantastic sight if anyone does come down to see these huge numbers, especially of ducks, on some of the reserves. The work the conservation organisations have been doing, that's the Somerset WildlifeTrust, but also the RSPB and Natural England, we're seeing the numbers of things like bitterns are shooting up. We're also very important for breeding lapwing, breeding snipe, and other wading birds. During migration time it's quite an exciting place to be if you're a bird watcher. Lots of things coming through, very exciting things like osprey will often turn up. And you never really know. Also, we have a lot of other birds of prey, peregrine falcons, hobbies, which are another type of falcon which feed on the dragonflies. And on any summer's day, if you come down and walk around, especially here at Westhay, you are inundated with dragonflies of all different shapes and sizes.
Wonderful sight. And what about plants?
Well, we have, being a sort of remnant wetland site, especially here at Westhay, we have some things which are very rare now in the southwest. There are various sundews, which are carnivorous plants, and other bog specialists. Also, you find other rare wetland species of plant, things like the milk parsley. One plant I did see for the first time, which was very interesting, this was a bit further south in the Somerset Levels, was the marshmallow, which is what was originally used to make marshmallows, which is now quite a rare wetland plant as well. And that's absolutely fantastic. It's something I'm looking to see if I can get a few seeds and see if I can get some in my pond. This is one of the real strongholds for otters, and actually, really, if you are going to go anywhere in the southwest to try and see an otter, places like Westhay might be some of your best places to try, although that is no guarantee. They are such hard things to see. And when otters had really started to decline and their numbers reached their lowest back in the 1970s, this was one of the areas where they managed to hang on, and now we're seeing otters spreading back through the UK. This is one of the real strongholds that they came from. Well, we've recently gone through a very extensive programme of upgrading our facilities. We've installed disabled access and disabled parking. We have this beautiful new hide that I'm sitting in now, which has got a lot of information and also beautiful views the other side out over reed beds. And then we have a variety of circular walks which go through the reed beds, across our old bog mire habitats, and through some woodland as well. We get passes of school children, comes to do pond dipping, lots of educational work. And we also have lots of volunteers who come and help us out with some of the practical management, so keeping on top of some of the scrub, keeping the pathways open and clear, and doing lots of really involved, important work for us. We have volunteers who come out during the week as well, and I can't always come and join them, and I always get stuck in my office feeling very jealous that they're able to out enjoying this wonderful place while I'm stuck away in an office. On some of the sites we have, or if they're not managed correctly, then we'll find a few species come and dominate and overshadow some of the
These are plant and tree and scrub.
Exactly, sorry, yeah. So you'll get very dominant grasses coming in first, and then some scrub coming in, and they'll overshadow the really quite fragile bog species. So we bring in grazing animals to
a limited number,
a very small number of grazing animals to make sure that these few dominant species of plant and bush don't take over. We've got a small number of Exmoor ponies, and then also a breed of cow called the Belted Galloway, and I think we've got 6 on site at the moment. These are really beautiful little old breed cattle, a bit like a saddleback pig. They're one tone at the base, and then they have a white stripe going around their middle. They're absolutely gorgeous little animals. We're looking at ways in which we can not just have nature on our nature reserves, which act as little honeypots. So ways in which we can work for mutual benefit with the farmers, with the landowners, with tourists, people who want to access the land. We have a whole range of different projects looking for how we can improve access, how we can improve the profitability of sustainably grazed products, through to really trying to focus down on a few species and make sure we have good benefits for them. A lot of our work relies on a whole network of fantastic volunteers who go out, they do practical work, they help us in the office, they're running the area groups, doing all sorts of different things which really keeps the trust going. And if anybody wants to get involved either in their local area or in the Wildlife Trust, get in touch with us at the Somerset Wildlife Trust, and we've got a team who will put you in the right direction.